Number 7. Fishing areas in number 6 should be restricted within the national forest. Create a revised map showing the public access fishing area in green and the private fishing areas in red. All right. So this one, we now have this buffer, and we're gonna intersect it with the layer that says who owns the land, which is that the vegetation one? Yes, in the vegetation feature class. So owner equals. Okay. So all we have to do is intersects are usually the most complicated to think about. So in this case, we want our buffer, our dissolved buffer that we made in question 4. Let's just give that a nice crosshatch here. Oh, I did that for the vegetation. So you can see, well, here, this is a good way to visualize it. Let's see what the national park land looks like first. So if we go to owner, and we look at the different values. Okay, great. So these are just 2 values in the first place. So what we need is a map that shows the places where basically the NFS, the green stuff, intersects with the buffer, and then the red stuff intersects with the buffer.
But that buffer is around all the roads, not just the roads that are near the streams.
I know, but I think this was the. It doesn't matter. Whatever polygon you had, if you did it right on the next step, I'll be able to tell, and it's fine. So whatever you did it, you had a polygon in the previous step, right? And Kayla's has 300 feet, and that's fine as well. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, anyway, you can see in theory what's going on here, right? Like, and this is typically what happens in GIS is you end up with 2 layers, and you want to get data from one of the layers onto the other layer, and that's essentially all you're doing with geoprocessing is breaking layers apart into pieces so you can measure things better or make a map of something. So in this case, what we need to do is intersect the buffer and the vegetation layer. Then we can symbolize the vegetation layer by the pieces that are remaining. I'll show you what this looks like. So if we do some of this, you have to run yourself, and you have to try it out and see what happens a couple of times until for it to click. So intersect, and again, I'm going to take vegetation and the buffer. This is where it's really helpful to name your layers something where you can read what happened to them while you're working with them. It's another lesson you have to learn by pain. Sorry to say. I mean, you could just take advice on the first try, but who does that? Come on. Question 7. Vegetation to 300-meter buffer. Intersect. Okay. Okay, so this is the classic result of an intersect of 2 polygons. A whole bunch of little tiny polygons is usually what you get. And it sometimes is a little overwhelming. But don't worry about, usually you want to plan these out pretty well. In this case, look at the result. It's just all of these polygons. And the thing is, it broke the polygon based on each layer, right? So it only took the places where they were both, the boundaries of the spatial parts of the both were the same. But it also intersected all the attributes for both. So we have an owner attribute in here, just like we did in the first layer, that we can symbolize on. and there's your map. And you can look at it. It's interesting. If you look at the other two layers, right? Here, I'll make it try to come up with an easy way. Oh, I have an idea. I can do. There we go. All right, so we have our buffer on our vegetation layer, and then if we do an intersect, we have just the pieces of that were on the buffer. Right? So you look at it again. So it's like we started with a vegetation layer, then we throw a buffer on top of it, and then what we end up with is just the pieces that are in the buffer.